You wake up, except you never actually went to sleep. It's 3 in the morning and your mind feels as sharp as it did at noon. No grogginess, no yawning, no desperate reach for a second cup of coffee. What you don't realize yet is that this isn't a fluke. This is the result of a small device sitting just beneath your scalp, quietly rewriting one of the oldest rules of being human. For your entire life, you've spent roughly a third of your existence unconscious. 8 hours a day. 25 years across an average lifetime. Gone. Not living, not working, not loving, not creating. Just lying still while your brain repairs itself in the dark. But what happens when that requirement disappears completely? Right now, in labs across the world, scientists are already chipping away at the biological need for sleep. Researchers studying a rare genetic mutation called December 2nd, identified by neurologist Inghui Fu at the University of California, San Francisco, found people who function perfectly well on just 4 to 6 hours a night, with no measurable cognitive cost. Fu's team has spent over a decade trying to understand why. The answer, it turns out, isn't about willpower. It's about a single gene quietly changing how efficiently the brain clears waste during rest. Here's the part most people don't know. Sleep isn't primarily about resting your muscles. It's about your brain washing itself. During deep sleep, your brain activates something called the glymphatic system, discovered and named by neuroscientist Maiken Nedergaard at the University of Rochester. Think of it like a nightly power wash. Cerebrospinal fluid floods through your brain tissue, flushing out metabolic waste, including a sticky protein called beta-amyloid, the same protein linked to Alzheimer's disease. Nedergaard's research found that this cleaning process is up to 60% more active while you're asleep than while you're awake. So the real question isn't whether you could stay awake forever. It's whether your brain could find another way to clean itself without shutting down first. Now imagine scientists solve that problem. Not through willpower, not through stimulants, but through a targeted neural intervention, something like a wearable pulse stimulation device or a genetic therapy that mimics the December 2nd mutation, accelerating your brain's natural cleaning cycle into a fraction of the time. Suddenly, the 8-hour requirement collapses into 20 minutes. Or none at all. Let's see what happens on the first day. You wake up, except there was no waking up because there was no sleeping. Your body never went still. Your thoughts never paused. The first thing you notice isn't excitement. It's silence. The silence of a missing ritual that structured your entire life. No bedtime. No alarm clock. No groggy first 10 minutes deciding whether today is worth getting up for. You have an extra 8 hours. What do you do with them? For most people, the immediate answer is more work. More scrolling. More producing. This is where the first hidden cost reveals itself. Your employer doesn't lose this extra time. They gain it. Economists have already modeled this scenario, and labor researchers point to a familiar pattern. When productivity tools expand human capacity, the benefit rarely distributes evenly. It concentrates at the top. A world without sleep doesn't necessarily give you more freedom. It might just delete your only socially acceptable excuse to stop. Now widen the lens from one person to an entire civilization. If nobody needed to sleep, every clock in the world would need to be rebuilt. Cities don't go quiet at night because nobody needs darkness to recover. Hospitals run at constant capacity. Stock markets, no longer bound by time zones of rested traders, might trade endlessly. Crime, which historically dips during the deep night hours when most of the population is unconscious, might simply redistribute across 24 hours instead of concentrating after dark. The entire architecture of human civilization, built quietly around an 8-hour gap in consciousness, would need to be redesigned from scratch. And there's a deeper paradox hiding inside all of this. You might assume eliminating sleep would make you smarter, faster, infinitely more capable. But sleep researcher Matthew Walker at the University of California, Berkeley, has spent his career demonstrating something uncomfortable. Many of your best ideas, your creative breakthroughs, your emotional processing don't happen while you're awake and focused. They happen during REM sleep, when your brain randomly reconnects unrelated memories and experiences, essentially running simulations while you're unconscious. Walker's research suggests that REM sleep is when your brain solves problems it couldn't solve while you were trying. So what would actually be lost if the lights never went out inside your head? Possibly the very thing that makes human thinking different from a machine that simply processes information without pause. Insight, the unexpected connection, the solution that arrives in the shower, not at the desk. If your brain never stops to wander, it may never wander somewhere new. There's also the question of what sleep does to your sense of self. Every night, while your conscious mind goes dark, your brain quietly consolidates memory, deciding what to keep and what to discard. This is partly why sleep deprivation studies, including decades of work from the National Institutes of Health, consistently show the same pattern. Without sleep, memory doesn't just weaken, it becomes unreliable. People without enough sleep don't just feel tired. They begin misremembering events, blending dreams with reality, losing the clean separation between what happened and what their mind invented. If a permanent fix to sleep does nothing to replace this consolidation process, removing the need to rest might not give you more memory. It might quietly erode which memories you can trust. Now think about this on a civilizational timescale, not just a personal one. The species that eventually doesn't need sleep isn't simply you, with more hours in the day. It's a fundamentally different kind of human. One whose brain processes experience in real time instead of digesting it overnight. One whose emotional regulation, historically tied to REM stage dreaming acting as something close to overnight therapy according to several sleep and emotion studies, would need an entirely new mechanism. You wouldn't just be a tired person who got their evenings back. You'd be a new kind of mind, built on a foundation no human brain in recorded history has ever tested. And yet, despite all of this, there's something almost inevitable about this future arriving in pieces. Modafinil, originally developed for narcolepsy, is already used off-label by people seeking to function on minimal sleep. Military researchers, including projects associated with DARPA, have studied stimulant alternatives and light-based circadian rhythm resets to keep soldiers operational with little to no rest. None of this eliminates the need for sleep entirely. But each piece chips away at the boundary, proving the wall isn't as fixed as it once seemed. Here is the counterintuitive twist most people miss. The danger isn't that eliminating sleep would turn you into something less human. It's that it might remove the only built-in mechanism forcing modern civilization to slow down. Sleep isn't just biological maintenance. It's a forced pause, a built-in limit on how much any single human, or any single system, can demand from you in 24 hours. Remove that limit and you don't just gain time. You remove the last natural boundary protecting you from being used every single hour you're conscious. So picture that future you opened with. 3 in the morning, mind perfectly sharp, no exhaustion anywhere in sight. It sounds like freedom, but ask yourself what fills those extra 8 hours when there's no biological excuse left to stop. Right now, today, you already have a small glimpse of that answer. Notifications don't sleep. Deadlines don't sleep. The expectation that you should always be available has been quietly creeping toward 24 hours for years, long before any neural implant existed to make it biologically possible. You don't need to wait for science to eliminate sleep to feel its absence shrinking. In a way, for a growing number of people, it already has.